Well, before we get in the program, it's time for this week's Joke of the Week.
Yeah, the joke of the week is, where do bugs get off the train?
Where do they get off?
At the infestation. So this week's garden joke is brought to you by Rescue.com. American-made rescue products keep your family, home, and yard protected from pest insects like wasps, hornets, yellow jackets, flies, ants, and more. Learn more at Rescue.com. That's RESCUE.com.
That joke was sent to us by our good friends at Rescue.com, who are returning next year for Season 9. So we appreciate their loyalty to the program, and we appreciate you to, as listeners, buying their product that we let you know about and supporting them so they can support us. We have a lot of great companies that we do a lot of hard work and hourless, timeless work in order to obtain the reputation and the sponsors that you hear on the program throughout the hour. So let's get in the program, Holly, and we're going to discuss 5 ways to improve your garden next year. Though this year is still happening, some I've seen on social media that, why is this happening? My garden's terrible, worst year ever. Variety of different, your mileage may vary based on where you're at. Too much rain, not enough rain, fill in the blank. So we're going to go over some things here that we can either reflect on this year and alter for next year, or include next year in order to make our great garden this year even better.
Yeah, so first one is, just your knowledge, take from your experience. So maybe you learned that you didn't like a certain variety of plants, or you learned that there was a low area in your yard, and now you know that, so you can either build it up, and that low area was causing some like flooding or pooling, and now you can build it up a little bit to help prevent that.
That is the case. Even if you think you have good drainage, what you want to figure out is, do you really? Because, it may rain an adequate amount, an average amount, and you think the water is percolating through the soil at a decent rate. But what if you do have those anomalies where you get that 1 or 2 inch rain in a very short period of time? Can your yard or your garden sustain that and not be floating down the river? So there's ways in which you can test your soil and see how quickly the drainage occurs. You can dig a hole about a foot deep and pour a 5-gallon bucket of water. How quickly does that 5-gallon bucket of water go into the hole and percolate through your soil? If it sits there for a long time, you got a very dense soil. You got very clay soil. Clay soil is not evil. There is a lot of nutrients locked up in it. You have to figure out how best to break that apart by amending it with compost. If your soil, if you're putting that water in the hole with a 5-gallon bucket and it's going down and disappearing quicker than it comes out of the bucket, you got pretty sandy soil. So you're going to have to add something, because that's not good either. That's the opposite side of the spectrum, that you're not retaining that moisture in which you need for grass, trees, and shrubs or vegetation in your garden. So you're going to have to add compost. You're going to add amendments in order to revitalize and build up that soil. Sand is good, drainage is good, but you need to have a balance there.
Right. So there is some knowledge there. Speaking of soil, is your soil up to par? So you might think, okay,
4?
Yeah. I don't usually use sports acronyms, but I guess I did today, or sports analogies. So maybe you think your soil is lacking something, and maybe you've never had a soil test, or you think you need a soil test, then you might need a soil test. If you think that you're having a common problem among your plants, like yellowing, or like curled leaf, or not enough blooms, you feel not enough blooms, or the roots don't seem like they go very deep, you might need a soil test.
Soil test from soilsavvy.com. They can give you, you get the unit, or you get the little box, and it tells you how to do it. You send it off, and they email you back 16 points of analyzation on what you need to do, what you need to stop doing, and how you get your soil where you need it. Soilsavvy.com. And by figuring that out, then you can have a better garden. And the other thing is your soil up to par? There is situations where there are problems such as the jumping worm. There are situations where there are problems that an infestation of an insect or a microbe gets in the soil and can start causing problems beneath the soil and not on top of the soil. There's problems that you may not know that you have done, but you have you have accidentally incorporated or introduced into your garden chemicals. Weed and feed. Pay somebody to do your lawn, or you do it yourself with a chemical weed and feed. You've mowed the grass. You've composted the material. It looks great. Looks like the stuff you get at the store. You put in your garden, and that active chemical in it, that 2,4-D, that broadleaf herbicide, is still active, and it is destroying your plants, your eggplants, your bean plants, anything with broad leaves, your tomatoes, anything. And it's curled and it's disformed them, because that's what that chemical does. That gets rid of the lamb's quarter, the dandelions, those things in the lawn that people don't want, so they can have that pristine lawn. So there is a way of remitigating your soil, but it can take years. We did a talk a handful of years ago at a local library, and somebody came up and said, hey, this is what's happening to my garden, exactly what I described to you. And we said, okay, we started processing what do you do? What do you add? Well, we add compost. Where do you get the compost from? Lawn clippings. What do you add to the lawn? 2,4-D or weed and feed. They had massive amounts of compost in which they had incorporated the lawn clippings in from their lawn, in which they had chemical treatment on, and it has ruined their garden. They had yards and yards of compost was mixed in with this. So there is ways of remitigating it. It's a timely process, but it can be done. But let's not do it so we don't have to go around and be reactive. Let's be proactive and not introduce chemicals into our garden if you are using it in your yard.
I agree. So that brings me to the next one is think about varieties that you want to plant. So maybe you this was your first or second year gardening, and you planted a variety of tomatoes, a variety of peppers, a variety of XYZ. And you're like, you know what? I really didn't care for this particular variety of whatever.
It tasted terrible.
Yeah, it tasted terrible. Or like, maybe you don't like green tomatoes as much as you thought you did.
When some people, and here's the thing, like giant white tomatoes, I think they're incredibly sweet. Other people who I've said, hey, try this, they're like, these are terrible.
Yeah. So that's another thing is you may have, went out on a limb and tried a few different things, and now you want to pare that down, and that's okay. Or maybe you're like, this is my first year gardening. I kept it pretty straightforward. Now I want to try some other things and try some new things that I've established some skills.
Farmers markets. Now is the time, the prime time for every summer crop to come out of your garden. Farmers markets have them. This is a time in which if you want to explore varieties, go to your local farmers market. See what they have. Go, I didn't know there was a purple tomato. This is black crim. It's delicious. I'm going to grow this next year in my garden. Or this particular cucumber. Or this particular pepper. Whatever the case is, this is the time to go, and you can buy one, see it. Hey, and then if it's good, let's say it's the pepper, and you like habanero pepper. You didn't know you like habanero. Habanero is very hot pepper. Save the seeds from the pepper that you got from the farmer's market, and you've already got your seeds for next year.
There you go. All right. So then the other thing is will you expand? Will you decrease? Maybe you're going to add more containers. Maybe you're going to do like a soft launch, expanding by adding more containers. Maybe you don't like exactly where certain things are in your garden. You have an option.
Your neighbor's not. You can't move your neighbor. You can't move your neighbor.
But maybe you realize now, like, hey, hopefully you didn't, build raised beds, but maybe you think about where you want to possibly move something, or you want to add something. In that situation, it's a good idea to kind of plan that now, especially as we move into fall. You're going to start losing the leaf coverage on the trees, so you can make the decision before then to see what kind of sun you might have.
So with that being said, Walton's also has the ability in which can offer you things at a at a coupon rate. And we are happy to announce that they will be returning next year for the 5th consecutive year here on the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show because of you, the listeners.
Yeah, we're really happy about that. So we were brought to you today by Walton's. Listen, we know you care about where your food comes from, canning and preserving your fruits and vegetables, but what about the meat?
Tell me about that. What about the meat?
At Walton's, you can get all the equipment, seasoning, and supplies to make sausage, jerky, and any other meat product your way to your high standards. They also have meatgistics.com to help educate people on the hows and whys of meat processing, as well as a community of almost 15,000 users who will give their opinion and guidance on meat processing issues. You can go to waltons.com. waltonsinc.com to use code GROW50, that's GROW50, to save 10% off your orders of $50 or more, waltonsinc.com.
And some of you are not interested in game processing, but we are getting into or very close to the hunting time of year. So if you've got loved ones or friends or neighbors who do that, and you want them to do it well and correct and have the right tools, waltonsinc.com is the place. They have thousands of pieces of equipment that will help that particular situation out. Again, that coupon code is
GROW50, GROW50.
You can find all those coupon codes at our parent website underneath the Money tab at the top of the page, and that website is thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.